you were talking about how at this moment in time, when people are usually able to procrastinate and push things off and focus on whatever their work or social engagements or things like that, how at this moment in time, people aren't doing those things. And so there's really no excuse. And this is finally able to come to the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And I've been thinking about how in our lives, there have been these moments, right, where there have been protests, there have been moments of something that seems like some change is going to come. Maybe there's some minor thing that happens. And do you think at all that because people are in the position they're in right now and aren't just going to go back to work, do you think that this has some sort of longer lasting ability? Or do you think that the news cycle is going to come in and distract us? Or like, do you have any ideas on how this might play out?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier, which is that I would really like there to be a slogan, essentially, of what the objectives are. I recall when Occupy Wall Street was happening, being involved with protests there, trying to get something happening there. And a persistent criticism that ended up bogging it down was, what are your demands? Who is your leader?
Yeah.
And should that be a thing that is required in a movement? That's kind of debatable. I don't know. But what I do know is that people that will be the ultimate tipping point require that type of easy access in order for there to be something substantive to happen.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, I mean, even just the question you asked, is that a requirement for a movement? I guess no, but isn't movement about actually moving?
right.
And the way to get things done is to have some sort of clear agenda. So, yeah, a movement as a noun, maybe not, but movement as a verb, probably.
Yeah. And I mean, also there is a scenario that plays out which is not someplace that we want to go, where there is an overthrow without a purpose.
Right.
It seems inconceivable, but a lot of things have seemed inconceivable that have been happening.
It's true.
And, does this end up like France, in the 1790s or in the Robespierre era? Maybe that was early 1800s. I don't know. Somebody can fact check me on the internet.
It's not going to be me.
But there are evidences of progressive movements in the history of humanity that have been mob-led and ultimately chaotic and non-functioning.
Right.
And yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't perceive that to happen, but I haven't been able to perceive a lot of things that have happened. So, and these are unique circumstances.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at a really wonderfully, potentially pivotal time where all eyes are on this movement. And I mean, there were protests in every single state in our country, and I think in 13 other countries around the world, that were all related to Black Lives Matter and the mistreatment of people by the police. And that's pretty amazing. Like, I haven't seen that. I don't know when the last time something like that has happened. And so, yeah, and not to put more pressure on the people that have already put this together, but I do think it's important to capitalize on this momentum, and in this moment where there is all eyes are on the platform, so the platform should know what it's saying. I would make a major distinction between this and Occupy Wall Street. I mean, there's a number of major distinctions, but I do think that there have been clear things that are being said. Like, we're not even talking about prisons. Prisons are connected to police. I'm talking about prisons. I'm thinking about it. But the movement isn't even talking about prisons. They're talking about defund the police. No
Yeah.
justice, no peace, defund the police. Like, those are the things.
I would
So,
agree that this already has a complexion that's different from what the Occupy Wall Street thing was.
yeah.
I think that there is a lot more infrastructure, and I think that there are people within these movements that are interested and capable of being leaders.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a question of how, if they will ascend.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And to a point, and also, like, I'm sure you and I are ignorant to some of the leadership that already exists. There is leadership. There are organizers working together, clearly, working hard and making it happen. None of this would really be happening if there wasn't some sort of clear organization. I think it's more outward facing is what we're not seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm hopeful. I mean, I do think that I hope that something can pop up like that.